This week at NASA. The Ames Research Center was the scene of a gathering of experts from government, industry, and academia meeting to discuss the agency's green aviation research efforts.
Doing research in alternative biofuels
and showcase groundbreaking solutions NASA and its partners are developing to reduce the impact of aviation systems on the environment. Over a 2-day period, attendees heard researchers, scientists, technicians, and leading policymakers present on the latest emerging environmentally sensitive aviation technologies.
Please join us welcome NASA Administrator, Mr. Bolden.
NASA Administrator Charles Bolden addressed the group on day one of the event.
We're so excited at NASA about the opportunities we are being given in the coming years to help develop solutions to some of our most pressing aviation problems and create the next generation of air transportation systems that will last for generations and make us all safer and make the planet a better place. That's a huge challenge, but we at NASA enthusiastically accept it.
The clock is winding down as NASA astronauts and ground crews continue to ready hardware and facilities for the next shuttle mission to the International Space Station, STS-133. Space Shuttle Discovery rolled over from the Kennedy Space Center's Orbiter Processing Facility 3 to the Vehicle Assembly Building, VAB, where it was mated to 2 solid rocket boosters and a fuel tank. In the meantime, Discovery's crew, Commander Steve Lindsay, pilot Eric Bowe, and mission specialists Michael Barrett, Tim Copra, Nicole Stott, and Alvin Drew continue their training for a scheduled November 1st flight. The administrator graciously gave up a little of his time off this Labor Day to participate in festivities on the National Mall.
For me, it's an honor to be asked to come out here with the National Symphony in front of people from all over the country. I have learned by walking around and talking to some people, and actually from all around the world. Just to have them hear the name NASA as a part of this concert, I think is really important. And then having heard the music before from Apollo 13, I think they will be moved as I am, and that's really important.
Bolden introduced a musical segment from the film Apollo 13, performed by the National Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Émile Decoux. The segment honored the 40th anniversary of the mission.
I want to thank the National Symphony Orchestra for recognizing the great accomplishments of our human spaceflight program with this tribute tonight to Apollo 13. So I invite you, enjoy.
Apollo 13 launched from the Kennedy Space Center on April 11, 1970. The space vehicle crew included Commander Jim Lovell, Command Module Pilot John Swigert, and Lunar Module Pilot Fred Hayes. The annual Labor Day concert is held on the West Lawn of the U.S. Capitol. Also over the Labor Day weekend, actor-rapper Mos Def and astronaut Leland Melvin teamed up to share NASA's Summer of Innovation program with young people at the Instituting Science in Schools Science and Cultural Festival at the Chabot Observatory in Oakland, California, and people attending the Tom Joyner Morning Show Family Reunion in Orlando, Florida.
Without advances in science and technology, you wouldn't be able to enjoy the radio, the television, the internet.
Def and Melvin, using cutting-edge holographic video technology, shared their enthusiasm for science, technology, and exploration, participating in events occurring 3,000 miles apart. Later at the reunion, Melvin was part of the Legends and Trailblazers panel, which included Star Trek star Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura on the popular 60s TV series. NASA's Summer of Innovation program is a multifaceted project to promote and improve science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in middle schools.
Just get out there and get good grades, because that's the thing. If you want to work at NASA, we take the best and the brightest. We'll help build you up, but you got to have something for us to start with to begin with.
The Dryden Flight Research Center held a special media event to discuss the Genesis and Rapid Intensification Processes GRIP experiment, a multi-center campaign designed to better understand how tropical storms form and develop into major hurricanes.
With GRIP, we're trying to get a lot more high-resolution measurements, and with the single airplane, we may only have 5-6 hours on a storm. With the Global Hawk, maybe 15 hours on a single storm.
Media were introduced to the various aircraft involved in the GRIP mission, including the Global Hawk unmanned airborne aircraft.
We have several new instruments that provide new measurement capabilities to study hurricanes, and coordinating with other federal agencies, NOAA and National Science Foundation.
During GRIP, each plane will fly at various altitudes and carries a suite of remote sensing instruments to observe and characterize the life cycle of hurricanes. The DC-8 aircraft was deployed to Florida and recently flew into the eye of Hurricane Earl. And now, centerpieces.
The Marshall Space Flight Center marked its 50th anniversary with multiple events honoring the work of several generations. Marshall Space Flight Center leaders unveiled an Alabama historic marker commemorating the formation of the NASA Center and the subsequent 50 years of Marshall innovation. The marker was placed at the Visitor Center for Redstone Arsenal, Marshall's home for the past 50 years.
We really appreciate the recognition from our friends, neighbors, colleagues, and patrons from Huntsville and the state capitol. Thank you from the Marshall Space Flight Center team at T+50 years and counting.
To commemorate the historic anniversary, Marshall employees posed for an aerial photograph by forming a giant 50. Immediately following the photo shoot, current and former NASA employees and contractors were invited to a brief social, which included remarks from Center Director Robert Lightfoot, a panel of astronauts discussing their experiences at the Marshall Center, presentations of vintage photographs from the center's past, and historical displays, including the office desk of rocket pioneer and the first Marshall director, Dr. Werner von Braun. The cities of Huntsville and Madison, along with Madison County, Alabama, declared September 8th Marshall Space Flight Center Day. On September 8, 1960, President Dwight Eisenhower visited Huntsville to lead the Marshall Center's dedication ceremony.
I dedicate this to the George C. Marshall Space Flight Center. May this great center be ever worthy of its honored name.
He unveiled a bust of the center's namesake, U.S. Army General George C. Marshall, who received the Nobel Prize in 1953 for overseeing the European Recovery Program, or Marshall Plan, which secured $13 billion in post-war food, machinery, and other aid for Europe.
Fans, don't forget to visit the Little League Baseball Museum, where a special exhibition is now available from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
NASA was a big hit at this year's Little League World Series, from the official first pitch thrown from outer space to the astronaut meet and greet to the more than 16,000 fans who checked out NASA exhibits, including the Exploration Experience in 3D. The exhibits were open throughout the Little League World Series tournament and included a touchable moon rock, demonstrations of what exhibit goers might look like as astronauts, and displays informing the public about some of the practical research NASA is engaged in that benefits everyday life here on Earth, and a presentation of a Little League patch flown by Space Shuttle pilot Colonel Terry Virts during mission STS-130. And that's This Week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, log on to www.nasa.gov.